going on there, guys? We back with another one, and we got Dillon Brooks and John Morant exit interviews, and they spoke on several topics. You know, the Grizzlies, they were talking, gritty and dancing, doing all this stuff, and you know, John, when he came back, it was less trash talk, and he actually explained that with the interview with Jalen Rose. You know, he said that he wasn't going to talk as much, he wasn't going to be on social media as much, and you know, true to his word, he didn't after he came back. And Dillon Brooks, he was asked about several questions. One of the things that the owner said is they don't know if they're going to bring Dillon Brooks back next year. Well, he didn't say those words, but he said he'll talk about it at a later date, you know. And Dillon, just based off his interview, which I'm not going to play the whole thing, but he doesn't sound like he's sure. He says talk to his agent about that. So I think those conversations probably have stalled, or they're looking for an upgrade at that position. But he did speak on his trash talk with LeBron James and how he feels about it. And he, you know, in his opinion, he feels like that gives him that edge. And, you know, that's been his niche in the league. When they added Bane, they added all these other guys that are on the floor to score. And I just feel like he needs to find a balance in that. There's nothing wrong with having an edge, and there's nothing wrong with trash talk. With him or Ja, you just have to find a balance to how you're going to do it. And is your production going to match your trash talk, or you just going to be out there talking? So that's what Dillon Brooks is going to have to see. But check out what they had to say.
Katie.
DB, do you regret the comments made after Game 2 with how it then evolved into this huge wave of putting the spotlight on you and your team, and whether or not it, you know, geeked up LeBron or whatever? But do you regret making those comments after Game 2?
No. That's who I am. You know, I don't regret it. I'm a competitor. I compete. You know, I don't think it got LeBron geeked up. You know, is he back in the playoffs? It's been a little while, so I think, you know, he was ready to play. And overall, we just got beat by a better team, bigger team. Guys that have their whole team, their whole pieces there. And, you know, I'm just going to, you know, continue to be me and get better at what I do.
Hey, Dillon, do you think the perceived perception of you takes away from what you actually do on the court?
I only think it takes away from, you know, what calls have been made, or for instance, like the flagrant fouls, like, you know, there's already a persona on it, you know, so you know, it kind of makes them lean into that direction.
So the next part is where he and Ja talk about the trash talk, and just a brief synopsis. Taylor Jenkins and the owner said that this culture they want to build around the team is less talk, more action. So from a business standpoint, you know, the Grindhouse used to be, they probably talked a little trash on the court, but the antics weren't at an all-time high like they were this year. And you started to see that spill into their leader's personal life, talking so much on social media to the point where he felt like he had to back it up. So this is what they had to say about that.
Taylor was just talking about how next season wants to see more walk the walk as opposed to talk the talk and walk the walk. Is that an approach you've already tried to implement since coming back? I noticed, you know, at least in this setting, we haven't seen really any trash talk from you since coming back.
Yeah, that's what I said, you know, pretty much when I got back, that I wasn't, you know, talking about nothing anymore, engaging in, you know, anything. So yeah, but like that was, you know, more for me, but, you know, if I do it, you know, the team, you know, probably won't do it either. So I feel like that's, you know, that's a good thing for us.
Dillon, back here. Taylor just talked about less talk, more walk next season. Is that an environment you feel you could operate under if you are back here next year?
Yeah, I could operate in any environment. You know, with the talking, you know, I did that. I do that for one, to create an advantage for myself. And two, I try to create this matchup between my opponent. And, maybe sometimes that gets the best of me and it's too much, for other people. But that's just the way, I work, I operate, like that's what you're supposed to have on the defensive end, or else you're just going to be like the rest of these guys, just going through the motions.
So clearly you see that Dillon Brooks feels like that's a part of his identity, and he's not willing to part ways with that 100%. He feels like that gives him the edge to compete, to be able to take on the toughest defensive assignment on the wing on any given night. And I can admit that does take an edge. I feel like what they're trying to say, though, is kind of what Steven Adams was trying to do as far as the way some of the guys were conducting themselves. Because, yeah, Ja is talked about the most in this, but they said the immaturity on the Grizzlies extend far past just Ja Morant. There's other players on the roster, namely Dillon Brooks, but those are the two figureheads for what's going on right now for the Grizzlies. Jaren Jackson, he was talking a little bit on social media last year with Clay, where Clay got upset and called him a bum, but he's kind of backed off of that this year. And I think, that has something to do with his father, Jaren Jackson. He played, I believe, didn't Jaren Jackson Sr. play for the Spurs on one of their championship teams? So he knows about the kind of culture and stuff that Greg Popovich built, and he has a father to relay that to him and stress the importance of it. Well, Ja Morant, he came back, and the season was already lost when he went out with that gun incident, and all those other incidents came out. The news was piling on, so you had a team that had already dug a hole with the things they say all year. They're good in the West. You already had a target on your back. Now you have things coming to the forefront that have no business coming to the forefront. Beating on a teenager, rolling up to the mall, Foot Action, Foot Locker, one of those, showing out in there, rolling up to your sister's basketball game, or it was a volleyball match she was attending, and threatening high school students. So then you had the gun on social media. So I think that's why they're saying less talking. Obviously, they're not going to ask their players not to trash talk on the court. That's just natural. And I feel like if that's a part of Ja's game, he needs to keep that trash talk on the court, but just keep it in good taste. Don't take it to the street level like he tried to do against the Indiana Pacers, because there's no place for you or that in the game. Just put it like this: get rid of all of the things that have no value into adding to who you are as an athlete and a professional. Those are only things that if they go where you're inviting them to go, they're going to pull you right down with them. So I would say get rid of that. Dillon Brooks, who knows, he's going to have to probably find a home next year. I was talking about the Toronto Raptors in the last video, and they were already looking at OG Anunoby, and you got Siakam available. One of these teams that's playoff ready is going to reach for some of these pieces that Toronto's willing to part ways with, and the Grizzlies already want to do something, so I think they are. It's just Dillon Brooks is not the sign and trade piece that you have, and his agent. It's going to be interesting to see what teams actually want him after he burnt some bridges this year. Now, competitive players have always went to other teams. Rodman ended up eventually coming to the Bulls after being with the Bad Boys, but Rodman brought a skill set that you desired, and it was one of one in the league. Dillon Brooks doesn't have that luxury, so his suitors, I'm just interested to see who's going to be on that list of suitors and who's going to bring him in. He needs to go back to the lab and really work on his shot, because I think if he can knock down shots, he'll eventually find him another job, but his role probably won't be as prominent going forward. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace.